This is Melissa, and today is the 22nd of October, 2023, and I've not been well this week, so forgive the ragged quality of my voice. I didn't post a real history. I did record something, but I did not have the energy to complete it and post it. So that will go up on the 26th, and I've tentatively entitled it Jankness. It was a fun conversation and the last time that I really felt well. So I did not have a lot of energy for anything this week, but I tried to look at news when I could and listen to a few things of interest and just think. And so what I'm going to talk about is the summation of some of the things that I looked at and thought about this week. I noticed that aid is going into Gaza. They have opened up the border between Egypt and the Gaza Strip, and they've allowed 20 trucks in. More than half of the 2.3 million inhabitants of the Palestinians have fled. The remaining are there rationing water and food, and aid workers say that there are about 200 trucks gathered there with some 3,000 tons of supplies, but they have not been allowed in. There is a law firm in the U.S. called Davis Polk that had made offers to 3 students from Harvard and Columbia, but they rescinded those offers when they discovered that these students had been involved in writing of protest letters. And so what came out of these protest letters, and I think with Harvard there were some 30 different student organizations which co-signed a letter holding the Israeli regime entirely responsible for all unfolding violence. And at Columbia University there were about 20 student organizations that issued a joint statement with, similar sentiment. It said the weight of responsibility for the war and casualties undeniably lies with the Israeli extremist government and other Western governments, including the U.S. government, which fund and staunchly support Israeli aggression, apartheid, and settler colonization. So the law firms had offered jobs to these students, and then they are finding that they're involved in these letters, so they're pulling the offers away. We'll see what comes, but there are other, in this article, which I'll post, it mentions a couple of other companies that are using a similar technique. They will not be employing young students fresh from university who have expressed criticism of Israel. I've mentioned before Allen's Cutting Through book in the first volume. Well, I should say that all of his volumes talk about the system of control. That is essentially what the work is about. It's how this ancient system works and helping you to think non-linearly, learn to think maybe by seeing visuals and symbols and starting to recognize the system that we're all born into. And he talks about how easy it is to do because conclusions that are faulty are passed from parent to child, generation to generation, and we come to our erroneous conclusions. And this is the technique of imprisoning the mind. And Allen writes, this technique of imprisoning the mind was well understood from antiquity up into the Industrial Revolution, when only an elite comprised of nobility, priests, and the officers of the military had education. Control was fairly simple. The body was threatened with physical death, and the spirit with eternal damnation. This enabled a tiny minority in ancient Egypt to live at the pinnacle of luxury, from Luxor, for 5,000 years. Luxor means place of light. It was a royal and priestly capital of learning. The common Egyptian was in the dark. One of the things that I noticed this week, I still had Gog and Magog on my mind, and so I was doing a little hunting around on that topic, and I found an article that had been published in the times of Israel. And the timing was interesting to me because it was published on October the 5th, and this Hamas attack on Israel was on the 7th. So the title says, "The Gog and Magog people are gone, and it is time now for Isaiah's visions." Gog and Magog are a pair of names that appear in the Bible and the Quran, variously ascribed to individuals, tribes, lands, or nature's catastrophes. In the first mention of these peoples, Ezekiel 38, Gog is an individual and Magog is his land. By the time of the New Testament's Revelation 28, Jewish tradition had already changed Ezekiel's Gog from Magog into Gog and Magog. Now, this is a lengthy article, not too long, but longer than my voice wants to read today, and I will post it for you to look at. But there are
Đêm
the
buồn
two
lặng lẽ,
things I want to
một
point
mình
out is
tôi
that so much
nhìn mưa
vengeance
rơi
on
chợt thấy
Solomon's
bồi hồi,
temple. And I just
thao
want
thức
you, long-time listeners,
đợi
will
chờ
know, of course,
người xưa đến. Có lẽ người ta chẳng đến rồi, ngậm ngùi nhìn cánh phượng vĩ rơi, ve ngân dạ khúc thật buồn ngùi, hà chưa kịp đi thu vội tới. Từ nay ta đã mất nhau rồi, duyên hai ta đã hết rồi.
If you look at the history of the 20th century and all of the bloodshed and the disease, the wars, perhaps the time of Gog and Magog has passed. And that is kind of an interesting point of view, though,
Đêm buồn lặng lẽ, một mình tôi nhìn mưa rơi chợt thấy bồi hồi, thao thức đợi chờ người xưa đến. Có lẽ người ta chẳng đến rồi, ngậm ngùi nhìn cánh phượng vĩ rơi, ve ngân dạ khúc thật bùi ngùi, hà chưa kịp đi thu vội tới. Từ nay ta đã mất nhau rồi, duyên hai ta đã hết rồi.
Talk about Jewish eschatology, and eschatology is a big word for end times, so end times prophecies, and you'll see
Đêm buồn lặng lẽ, một mình tôi nhìn mưa rơi chợt thấy bồi hồi, thao thức đợi chờ người xưa đến. Có lẽ người ta chẳng đến rồi, ngậm ngùi nhìn cánh phượng vĩ rơi, ve ngân dạ khúc thật bùi ngùi, hà chưa kịp đi thu vội tới. Từ nay ta đã mất nhau rồi, duyên hai ta đã hết rồi.
But anyway, he said Gog is the king of Magog, and he said we viewed Magog, he would not pinpoint where that was. He said it's just a bad place in the north. And here's where his sense of humor came in. He said a dark and evil place in the north, like where they make those triangular chocolates. So anybody who's a chocolate lover, as I am, will know that he was referring to Toblerone chocolates, which are triangular, made by the Swiss people. And I do not think that Rabbi Loffer was asserting that the Swiss, the ancient biblical
cuộc đời sao lắm phong ba, chịu duyên lần đận ép ai nửa đời tình yêu.
Where are they saying about what's going on?
nghe mãi xa
And
xôi.
one thing I stumbled upon, which was interesting to me, were all of the different astrologers who had done charts and had interpretations of what was going on and the significance of what was going on. And I've never gotten too deep into astrology.
Khi đi
And I didn't watch very many of these,
lúc
but one
đến
that I
như
watched
chơi
was
trốn tìm,
a pleasant youngish woman who
thôi
was
đành mặc kệ
charting
con
the
tim,
attack, the time, the
để cho
exact
số
time, to
phận
the best of
tự
her
tìm lấy
understanding,
nhau.
that
Mình
Hamas had launched
chẳng
the
thích
attack.
đi theo
And
số
then she
thế,
was showing the different
nhưng
points
tại
and
sao vẫn
conjunctions
để
and
đến
she had
nay?
lines, and it was all very
Chắc
interesting.
là mình đẹp
But
thế này.
the thing that
Mọi
really struck
người
me
cứ
is
nghĩ
that she tied it all
mình
back
đây có
in. She
bầu,
said,
thôi
now
mặc
one
kệ.
could make a case
Đời
here
số
that this
mình đây
all goes back
sống
to
đẹp
sex
ấy,
slavery.
mình cũng thấy
Because you have Sarah
cũng vui.
in the Bible,
Gọi cần
she
em
sold her
phải
Egyptian
những
slave
mùi
or handmaiden Hagar.
ghen hơn cái
And I
đắng.
don't know that you'd say that she sold her, but basically got her to give a baby to her husband Abram. That was Abraham. So Abraham is the father of the Abrahamic religions, and Sarah was his wife, and she was
Lúc đến như
unable
chơi trốn
to
tìm,
bear him a child, a son, and
thôi
she got
đành
him
mặc kệ
Hagar
con
as his
tim,
concubine.
để
So
cho
this
số
woman doing the
phận tự
astrological
tìm lấy
chart
nhau.
tied everything
Mình
that's
chẳng
going
thích
on
đi
right now
theo
in the
số
Middle East
thế,
back to sex slavery.
nhưng
And then
tại
someone
sao
sent
vẫn
me
để đến
something
nay?
from a Christian
Chắc
minister
là
in
mình
the
đẹp
US,
thế
and I
này.
won't say his
Mọi
name, it
người
doesn't
cứ
really
nghĩ
matter, but he
mình
was from
đây
a
có
church
bầu,
called Cornerstone,
thôi
and there are a lot
mặc
of
kệ.
churches called Cornerstones, so knock
Đời
yourself
số
out.
mình đây
But what is interesting about
sống đẹp
Cornerstone,
ấy,
what they
mình cũng
say
thấy
is
cũng vui.
Cornerstone,
Gọi cần em phải những
first
mùi
stone without which the building
ghen hơn
cannot
cái
stand. That
đắng.
is Freemasonry. The first stone without which the building cannot stand. And so Jesus would be considered the cornerstone of Christianity, right? He is the stone upon which Christianity is built. Now, the thing that the listener had sent me was basically this pastor in a southern American state whipping his congregation up into a bit of a frenzy for Israel. And
Em sinh như một bông hoa,
the
ngát
Palestinian
hương lan
animals
tỏa
that
thiết
the
tha
Hamas
tháng ngày.
perpetrated this
Dù xa
attack.
tình anh vẫn
And
đắm
I
say
saw
như
that it
bên
was a
nhau
mega
mãi
church.
vòng tay nồng
Cornerstone
nàn.
was a mega church.
Hoa em dù
And I
úa
thought,
hay
let's
tàn,
see if this pastor has
nụ
a
hôn
private
anh
jet
gửi
or a
trên
mansion
làn
or
môi
whatever. I
xinh.
couldn't find that.
Yêu
I
em
could
mãi
not
mãi
find
chung tình,
that.
hương hoa vẫn quyện
But
đôi
what was
mình với
interesting
nhau.
to me was that I did
Đừng làm
find that his
cho
wife
trái tim
led
đã
one of
âu,
the women's
đừng
ministry
làm nỗi nhớ
groups
nát nhau
affiliated with the
tâm
church.
can. Tình yêu không đợi thời gian, yêu nhau có lúc lệ tràn đậm
well
mi.
into her 60s.
Đừng bao giờ nói chia ly.
One simple piece of jewelry, and it was a Star of David that encircled a cross. And the other thing that I noticed about the Cornerstone ministry was that they had something on the go all the time, 24/7, for whatever age group
Em sinh như
that
một
you were
bông
in.
hoa,
And
ngát
ministries
hương
from
lan tỏa
very
thiết
small
tha tháng
toddlers
ngày. Dù xa tình anh vẫn đắm say như bên nhau mãi vòng tay nồng nàn. Hoa em dù úa hay tàn, nụ hôn anh gửi trên làn môi xinh. Yêu em mãi mãi chung tình, hương hoa vẫn quyện đôi mình với nhau. Đừng làm cho trái tim đã âu, đừng làm nỗi nhớ nát nhau tâm can. Tình yêu không đợi thời gian, yêu nhau có lúc lệ tràn đậm mi. Đừng bao giờ nói chia ly.
She is a Palestinian singer, and she's currently under house arrest over social media posts. So this is what it says in the BBC from yesterday. Dozens of Arab citizens of Israel have been arrested in connection with social media posts about the war in Gaza. Among them is a well-known singer and influencer from Nazareth. The law was held in police custody for 2 days before being released on Wednesday on bail. She's now under house arrest until Monday. According to her lawyer, Baker, she was accused of disrupting behavior by police officers who said her post could incite violence among her followers. The post that attracted police attention was an image of the Palestinian flag with the Arabic motto, "There is no victor but God." Ms. Baker says the singer, who is well known across the Arab world for her songs about Palestinian heritage, was expressing a religious sentiment. Israeli authorities interpreted the singer's post as a call to arms for Palestinians. The other thing that I noticed was, just in digging around, was how long different Christian churches and their youth groups and their praise music have been. In this talk, that I not mentioned,
bởi chút duyên ân từ trong sâu thẳm, hay anh giống điều gần gũi trong em. Phút nhẹ lòng anh vui vui tự hỏi, nhưng thấy cần chỉ giải thích rạch ròi, vì khi tim anh mãi đã có em và anh cũng nhận lòng anh rồi đó. Yeah, yeah. Em đã tặng anh bài thơ hay nhớ. Yeah, yeah.
Why, you know, that a creator would have a chosen people. I mean, that just doesn't reconcile. And Alan said their thinking would have to overcome their conditioning. That's the problem. And they've been so heavily steeped in this stuff from childhood that for many of them it's impossible
Giữa
to break
cuộc
that
đời
barrier.
em chỉ cần
And
có
they
anh,
talk about this.
cái nhìn đầu đã đượm màu thắm thiết, bởi chút duyên ân từ trong sâu thẳm, hay anh giống điều gần gũi trong em. Phút nghe lòng anh vui vui tự hỏi, nhưng thấy cần chỉ giải thích rạch ròi, vì khi tim anh mãi đã có em và anh cũng nhận lòng anh rồi đó. Yeah, yeah. Em đã tặng anh bài thơ hay nhớ. Yeah, yeah.
This new fragment from the book of Revelation, written in ancient Greek, dating to the late 3rd century, discovered in some historic dumps out in Egypt. A team of expert classicists
Phút nghe lòng anh vui vui tự hỏi, nhưng thấy cần chỉ giải thích rạch ròi, vì khi tim anh mãi đã có em và anh cũng nhận lòng anh rồi đó. Yeah, yeah. Em đã tặng anh bài thơ hay nhớ. Yeah, yeah.
616 refers to the Emperor Caligula. Now, this is one expert's opinion. But it got me thinking about the beast system, the beast in Revelation, the beast out of the sea, and the dragon who confers power on this beast out of the sea. And the beast is written about in these traditions, in these religious traditions, and we talk about the beast system as something that we are going into. We will go into the beast system, and we will have to take the mark of the beast. And I was reading something, you could say the beast system. What is that? That's 24/7 surveillance. That's a social credit system. That is where credits are issued. That is where you cannot buy nor sell without the mark of the beast. We'll all worship the beast, the Antichrist. And I was thinking, what is the beast system? I read something that got me thinking. They said the acceptance of the mark of the beast is not a sudden thing. The worshiping of the Antichrist is not a sudden thing. It's a gradual process. And gradually you come to accept this system and everything within the system. And by the time you are asked to take the mark, for most people, it's really no big deal because they are already fully adapted to the system. And so I'm going to say what I think here, and that is we are born into the beast system. And everything and everybody is used. And Alan would always say, don't join. He'd say, come out of this system and think for yourself. And he would tell you how ancient this was. And because it is so old and we are so well understood, and he talked about it again in this conversation with Jackie Petru, people are afraid of dying. And it is interesting because this week, before I felt unwell, I had started working on the third installment of the Meaning, Mentors, and Masters series of clips that I'm doing. And this one I was going to entitle Meaning and Purpose. And Alan started off talking about death and how death comes to all of us, but the fear of death is so known. They know that people don't know what comes next, and they're afraid of that. They're afraid, does anything come next? And then they populate your world with all manner of evil and darkness and good versus evil, and you want to be in the best. I heard someone else talking this week, prophecies of end time scenarios, but basically saying, I don't have a dog in this fight in the Middle East because the Orthodox believe such and such. And I thought, wow, I really can't believe that I'm hearing someone say that they don't have a dog in this fight, because if you're alive on the earth at this time, you've got a dog in the fight, whether you like it or not. And the reason that you do is because we are born into the beast system, a system where we're run by an ancient priesthood. And we're given sides, where religion is the most powerful foundation from which all of this is built. And we are pitted against each other. And people go religion shopping, and one of the reasons they shop for religions is because they're shopping for an insurance policy for what comes next. And this set of rules that I live by, if I live by them correctly to the best of my ability, blah, 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 then I've purchased the best insurance policy for the hereafter that I can possibly have. And this is why Alan said over and over, and I know people did not like that heterodox approach, but he was not a basher of the Creator. In this talk, Jackie referred to somebody giving him the position that a lot of Christian pastors have, where they are just telling you, we can sit back and watch what is going on over there because Jesus is coming soon. And it doesn't have anything to do with us. Jesus is coming soon. I am talking about
phong ba chữ duyên lần đận ép a nửa đời tình yêu nghe mãi xa xôi
is innate in us. We want to know where did we come from, and many people are seeking back to
khi đi lúc đến như trời trốn tìm, tôi đành mặc kệ con tim để cho số phận tự tìm lấy nhau. Mình chẳng thích đi theo số thế, nhưng tại sao vẫn để đến đây? Chắc là mình đẹp thế này. Mọi người cứ nghĩ mình đây có bồ, tôi mặc kệ đời số mình đây. Sống hẹp ấy mình cũng thấy cũng vui, khỏi cần em phải những mùi ghen hơn cay đắng.
First volume, page 63. To conquer an evil, we must first disperse into the individual. We must cast off religions, the ties that bind, and stop
khi đi
the material
lúc đến như trời
was
trốn tìm,
conquered eons ago by
tôi đành mặc kệ
those who
con
could
tim
not create, but
để
who
cho
could
số
reshape into
phận
systems
tự tìm
made in
lấy
their
nhau.
own deviant
Mình
image.
chẳng thích đi theo số thế, nhưng tại sao vẫn để đến đây? Chắc là mình đẹp thế này. Mọi người cứ nghĩ mình đây có bồ, tôi mặc kệ đời số mình đây. Sống hẹp ấy mình cũng thấy cũng vui, khỏi cần em phải những mùi ghen hơn cay đắng.
That would be a nice place to stop. But there's another piece of Alan's writing from about 2007 that I wanted to share with you. A poem. It's a little different than what he would put up just to accompany a talk. Matrix, Muhammad, Moses, Jesus, Krishna, Brahma, Sarah, Hagar, abortion, end of love, into black hole of night, bated breath to see who brings the light. Armies gather for the fight, crusader clash, sword to sword, while science, backed by high accord, sits back. Whirlpool of a galaxy, stars in ardent apogee, as above, so below. Medina, stars laid bare, stare. Jesus above the skull will rise. Holy rock, steeped in blood, to all surprise, gives up the blood of sacrifice. UN building consecrated, slaughterhouse behind the faces of charity. Cutting through the matrix, the vortex has appeared. 1,000 years of history is streaming. Truth is streaming out, heard above the shouts of propagandizing. Buddha has woken from wish. The smile has gone. Lake, rising, mountain, pierce air, touch sun, water, earth, fire. Delilah is delicious with her lies and her kisses. Holy One, wrapped in spirit, sacred intercourse, union, fusion. There's a demon in my TV. There's a demon in the White House. There's a demon in the House of Parliament. There's a demon in uniform, and it is threatening me. The Sephiroth is steaming, and the genies loose again. Sparrows bring no souls to earth, and vultures circle round, adapting to technology, adapting to the changes, adapting to a broken life, goods for people exchanges. Whispers from above, whispers all around, whispers say in the dead of night, earth is the slaughter ground.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight on Sweet Liberty. Today is Wednesday, and it is the 13th of April in the year 2005. Alan is with us this evening. Alan Watt is with us this evening. How has your day been besides the chemtrail spraying?
I got my truck stuck in the field.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was taken out there to do some important stuff, and it's just not dry enough, eh? Yeah.
So did you get it out?
No, I spoke to it quietly and left it.
Oh, okay. So do you think it's going to come in by itself now?
Well, I did tell it what would happen to it if it didn't.
Alan, there's something that I would like to address tonight. I would like you to address. I don't know how to respond. I don't know that what I say or the way I say it, what initiated this is that I got a call last night from a really nice man, and I mean this sincerely. And I know that it's with all of his heart, the belief. Mm-hmm. But basically, it was the same thing I get from people who are, I guess it's Christian or Israel identity, mm-hmm. that it isn't Yahweh or Jehovah, mm-hmm. that God of the Old Testament. The name is wrong. It's Yahweh. Mm-hmm. And Alan, what is the difference?
Well, to them it's everything, really. And that goes way, way back into the Middle East, where if you knew the exact pronunciation of the entity or demon, then you would control it. That was where it all stems from. And of course it's all nonsense, because if you're talking to a creator, I'm sure the creator is bright enough to know who you're talking to.
Yeah, what about that part in the Old Testament where it says, if my people would, does it say know my name or something about repent? Mm-hmm. But I wished I knew it word for word. I don't know if you know which one I'm referring to, but I think a lot of stuff is pinned onto that too. Mm-hmm. If my people would say my name or know my name, call upon me, I will heal their land.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's to make people think that yet we have to have a name for Creator.
That's pretty well it. It's nonsense. I mean, if you're speaking to a Creator that's so dumb with a low IQ that if you get the name wrong, he doesn't hear you, then I think you're praying to the wrong entity.
Uh-huh.
Because obviously anything that was a creator knows exactly who you mean.
Well, but this goes along with the fact that it wasn't the Jews that were the chosen, it was the white Anglo-Saxon. And there's a lot of evidently research that people have done into bloodlines and mm-hmm. and people from back in that area. Yeah. And so what it comes down to is this. It comes down to believing that Creator would choose a special people and were to rule the world. Mm-hmm. Rule the world. It says in there, Alan, that you are going to loan to nations and borrow from none.
Yeah.
And it also says to a special people that they cannot loan money, charge usury mm-hmm. to their fellows, but they have to charge usury to the stranger mm-hmm. or the goyim.
Yeah.
Well, how is this reconciled in people's minds? Or is there something that you that at least to plant a seed that would get them thinking, Alan?
Well, their thinking would have to overcome their conditioning. That's the problem. And they've been so heavily steeped in this stuff from childhood that for many of them it's impossible to break that barrier.
Well, a lot of people who are Christian identity, mm-hmm.